Greetings, welcome to Module 3.1, Instructor-Prepared Materials.
In this video, what we're going to do is go over some of the expectations about what is an instructor-prepared material and how do you incorporate that into your course. So a good place to start is with the requirements. The Schedule F2 distance education is in our contract, and it's the peer evaluation tool that is used when instructors come in and evaluate your course. So what it says there is there are instructor-prepared materials, text-based audio files and/or video files, in addition to publisher-created materials. The instructor should contribute to what the student reads, hears, and/or watches, rather than relying solely on published materials. So how do we go about doing that? How do we go about actually preparing our materials? Well, first thing to think about is how do we go about actually meeting this requirement or this standard? And there are two ways that we can create our materials to meet the standard. The first one is a summary and or brief analysis of topic, chapter, module, whatever the lesson includes, provided as brief text with audio or video. And you would use those in the case where you feel that the materials that are being provided by the publisher are robust and very rich in their media content, and that the students are going to get the information, that the content is there and not necessarily needing the supplement that you would have to give it. That said, you should still come in and do an analysis of what is important in this chapter, what is important in this lesson, what is it the takeaway you should come away from this, much as we would do in a face-to-face class. The second way that we can meet it is, which many faculty have done, is that we can actually lecture, do video captured lectures where we highlight, supplement, analyze the topic, chapter, module, again, the lesson that we're trying to work with, provided as a longer text with audio and or a video. Note that it's very important that just an outline or slideshow without narration does not meet this requirement. So you can't rely just solely upon the materials that are being produced by the publishing company that you're working with. So let's go over the first one. Let's go over the summary brief analysis and get more in depth about what we mean by that. So again, that's a summary or brief analysis of the topic, chapter, module. So basically the lesson that you're working on. And you can provide that as a brief text. That brief text has to be accompanied with some sort of audio, or you can do it with video. It's probably the easiest and fastest way to meet the standard. It's a good place to start with when you first get into doing online teaching. Online teaching can be kind of intimidating from the amount of work that you have to do to prepare your course. So using materials provided by your publisher can actually help get rid of some of that angst. So the instructor writes or presents an introduction to the topic, including a summary overview, and the important part is analysis. Again, you're the guide here. You're the one who's telling them what they should be looking for when they're going through the material. The written text should be accessible with a screen reader, which means it should be a doc or a PDF from a doc, and not a scan unless you're using OCR, which is optical character recognition software. You can talk to Reno or myself if you need more help with that. Or have an audio recording accompanying with the teacher's voice, while the video, of course, should be captioned and or transcribed, as we've talked about in our accessibility section. So that's the fundamental. Here's the lesson. Let me tell you what we're going to be doing today and what's important about this lesson. The more complicated way, of course, is to produce your own lessons, and that would be to produce your own lectures. And when you're producing your own lectures, it can be at first extremely time consuming, but it also is very effective because you know best out of the course materials what you want to present. Course materials many times more or less have a shotgun approach. They know they have to adhere to lots of different schools of thought, and so many times they have material in there that's not necessarily what you want to emphasize. So making your own lectures and emphasizing the material that you think is most important can be a very effective way of teaching your class. So the instructor applies his or her expertise to the topic by providing an extensive analysis and or supplement to the published materials. Note that you can also supplement your published materials from some of the excellent sources at TED Ed or YouTube for Schools, and there's an app for that in Canvas that makes adding those resources really quite easy to a page. And when we get further into the class and talk about Canvas resources, maybe we'll show you how to do that. So the written text, again, whether it's a transcript of your video or if you're doing audio over text, it needs to be screen reader compatible, which means it needs to either be a doc or a PDF that was converted from a doc. And if you scanned it, you got to use OCR. If you have an audio recording that accompanies the text with the teacher's voice over it, or the video, of course, needs again to be captioned or transcribed. So hopefully that's all making sense, but probably make even more sense if we go take a look at some examples. So I'll show you some very polished videos from our colleagues, Christine Dobrowski, Wendy Riggs, and Mark Winter, that illustrate the different styles that we've discussed on the video lecture and or text with audio. So let's go take a look at Christine first. So let's see here, if we go find Christine is, let's see, Christine will show up if you look in where you found this video. If you want to take a look and watch Christine's full video, it's the food choices video right here. So this is Christine's video. She published her video onto YouTube. There's lots of advantages to publishing on YouTube. Let me go ahead and play a little bit for you.
This week's topic on food choices and human health. I'd like to start with a discussion. What is healthy? Let's take a look at these common breakfast.
Okay, so a couple of really nice things that you see in Christine's video. Notice she's got over here the headers, the topics of what she's going to be covering in this lecture. Nice little capture of herself up in the corner. And then, of course, she has her slides going on. So Christine has chose to use a YouTube channel to do this. There are many advantages to doing a YouTube channel. One is that when you go to do the captioning, it does actually make the grant-funded captioning easier for us. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Now, I'll show you a video from Wendy Riggs. In Wendy Riggs's video, she just opted not to use YouTube because she wanted a much more robust, media-centered experience for her students, and YouTube doesn't necessarily support that. And so what Wendy did is actually put her stuff out onto a file server. I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of hers.
Hi, little dog pounds. We're back to continue our exploration of heredity and genetics. And
so again, you see Wendy's up here. She's got her lecture going on over here in this pane. But one thing that's nice about this is that Wendy has it so that you can click through and go to
okay, so here we are
where you want to be in the video. She has hers broken up just as if you have subsections in a chapter. So you can come back to the video and quickly find your place if you choose not to watch the whole 37 minutes of the video in one sitting. Nice feature, but that doesn't work so well in YouTube at this point. So we're working on getting a server farm here at College of the Redwoods where you won't have to go out and find an independent server to do that, okay? Now let's look at how Mark Winter does his lectures. What Mark does is he uses text. So what he provides his students, and there's a link to this on the same page this video resides, is basically a text lecture. So Mark has written up pretty extensively what he wants his students to know, along with good links to other resources, etc. Okay, and then what he's done with that, on top of that, is he's gone in and he's put in some audio capture over the top of that. So if we go back over here to the website, let's see, if we go here, you'll see down the bottom, you'll see where there is the audio lecture. And if we click on that.
Birth and the newborn child. On the first day my child was born, I forgave my parents everything. Mel Connor. Birth. Usually between the 36th and 40th week of development.
So what Mark's got going is that what he has his students do is he's basically reading along with them, and he's also putting in lots of commentary and giving them additional stuff. Very similar to the way we're doing these presentations, where we have the slides that we more or less read to you and then add on to it as supplemental information as needed, okay? All right, so those are some great examples of different types of videos that you can create, or audio and text that you can create and use. Of course, there's a bit of a learning curve for each of these. I think Christina and Wendy are both using what's referred to as Captivate, which is an Adobe product. I'm creating these videos using what's called Camtasia. A little less steep of a learning curve than Captivate, but still somewhat difficult to use. So how do we go about figuring out how to do this? You know, what resources do we have? Well, of course, you probably, if you're going to do like Mark did, you should be pretty good at Microsoft Word or some sort of word processing software. Most of us use, in addition to that, if we're going to be doing videos, we use some sort of a presentation or slideshow software. You can use PowerPoint or Keynote are good examples of that. If you're going to be doing audio, as Mark does, then you're going to need the hardware for that. If you notice, both Christine and Wendy did not have headsets on this because they were using a digital microphone. And so getting a good microphone, which we do have some that you can use at CR, that helps a lot if you want to put yourself in as a talking head and not have a headset on. And look like you're working at a call center or something. There's a great piece of software to help you out with editing that. It's called Audacity. It's free. It's a really great piece of software for editing audio if you want to do that. So lecture capture software, which is what I'm using right now, that's Camtasia. There are other options, Captivate, which is an Adobe product, and Screencast-O-Matic. If you download the slides for this presentation, all of these are hot linked, and you can click them. It'll take you to the respective web pages where you can see that. Okay, so, well, that's great, but how do you learn all of those? Well, we do have good support. Creating these materials can be very intimidating, particularly if you have limited experience with the tools needed. The best way to start on this journey is to pick the easiest path for you. In other words, start simple and work your way up. If you use screen capture software, start off with the simplest one. Like Screencast-O-Matic is a very simple one to use. There are other choices out there that are pretty easy. And just as with our face-to-face lectures, don't consider every time you do a video as a polished, finished project. Most of us redo our lectures pretty much every semester, or at least go in and spruce them up a bit before we give them. And that's really particularly true when we're initially starting and we're being lecturers for the first time. We improve our lectures, or our captures in this case, as our skills improve. And so you may find that you actually redo your captures or update ones that you don't think are so good as you go through. Okay, one last thing that I did want to show you is that you can, if you're doing just brief video to go back and discuss things with your students, is that you can actually do video capture right in a page in Canvas. There's a little example of my opening page in my stats class.
Greetings, welcome to Math 15. My name is Mike Butler and I'm the professor for this course. To get started, you're going to want to go up over here to modules and go click on that to get started.
Okay, so these are actually fairly easy to create in Canvas, and they're actually fairly easy to caption in Canvas also. You don't even have to send those out to get them captioned. So again, that's something else that would be good to add to your lexicon of items that you know how to do. And a great person, of course, to get help with all of that from is Reno. Reno is our man. And so he can set up workshops to work with you one-on-one and give you support on anything that you're working on. So feel free to tap him as your main resource. And there are other folks, of course, out here on campus, some actually Mark and Wendy and Christine, which would be happy to help show you how to do what they did also.